JVM is not just a single unit, it's a complete system made up of multiple components working together. When you run Java Hello, the JVM springs into action and three major subsystems kick in. The class loader brings your .class files into memory. The runtime data areas are the memory regions where your program's data lives during execution, including heap, stack, method area, PC register, and native method stack. The execution engine is what actually reads and runs the bytecode. Looking at the architecture diagram, you can see how data flows, class loader feeds into memory areas, and the execution engine pulls from those areas to run your program. Every component has a specific job, and together they make Java execution possible. The class loader is the first subsystem that activates when you run a Java program. It doesn't load all classes upfront, it loads them on demand, meaning a class is loaded only when it's first needed. This makes Java memory efficient. As shown in the diagram, the process has three phases. Loading is where the .class file is found and its bytecode is brought into memory. Linking has three substeps: verification, checks bytecode is valid; preparation, allocates memory for class variables; and resolution, replaces symbolic references with actual memory addresses. Initialization is where static variables are assigned their actual values and static blocks are executed. There are also three built-in class loaders: Bootstrap loads core Java classes like java.lang, extension loads from ext directory, and application loads your own classes. They follow a parent delegation model. Each loader asks its parent first before loading a class itself. Think of the method area as the blueprint storage of JVM. When the class loader loads a class, all its structural information goes into the method area: the class name, its parent class, method names, their bytecode instructions, field names and types, and all static variables. Because it's shared across all threads, any thread in your program can access class-level data from here. It's created when JVM starts and destroyed when JVM shuts down. In older Java versions, this was called the permgen, permanent generation, space, but from Java 8 onwards it was replaced by metaspace, which grows dynamically and is allocated from native memory instead of heap, solving the infamous out-of-memory error permgen space issue developers used to face. Every time you write new dog or new string, hello, in Java, that object is created in the heap. It is the most important and largest runtime memory area. As shown in the diagram, heap is divided into regions for efficient garbage collection. The young generation is where new objects are born. It has an hidden space where objects are first created, and two survivor spaces, S0, S1, where objects move if they survive a GC cycle. Objects that survive multiple GC cycles get promoted to the old generation, tenured, which stores long-lived objects. The garbage collector regularly scans the heap. Objects with no references are removed automatically. This automatic memory management is one of Java's biggest advantages over C++, where developers had to manually free memory. If heap fills up completely, JVM throws out-of-memory error, Java heap space. Unlike heap, which is shared, every thread in Java gets its own stack memory. Each time a method is called, JVM creates a stack frame and pushes it onto that thread stack. Inside each frame there are three parts: local variable array, stores all local variables and method parameters; operand stack, a working area where calculations happen; and frame data, stores reference to the constant pool and return address. As shown in the diagram, when main calls method A, which calls method B, frames stack up on top of each other. When method B finishes, its frame is popped and control returns to method A. This is a classic LIFO, last in first out, structure. Stack memory is much faster than heap because allocation and deallocation is just a pointer move. If too many methods call each other recursively without stopping, the stack fills up and JVM throws a stack overflow error. The program counter register is the simplest memory area in JVM but plays a critical role. Every thread in Java has its own PC register, a tiny memory space that holds the address, memory location, of the current instruction being executed by that thread. Think of it as a bookmark in a book. It always remembers exactly where you are. After each instruction finishes, the PC register advances to point to the next instruction automatically. This is especially important in multithreading. When a thread is paused and then resumed later, the PC register ensures it picks up from exactly where it left off, not from the beginning. For native methods, non-Java code, the PC register value is undefined since native execution is handled outside the JVM. Java is powerful, but sometimes it needs to interact with the underlying operating system or hardware, things that pure Java can't do. For this, Java supports native methods, methods written in C or C++ and declared in Java using the native keyword. When such a method is called, the JVM steps out of its normal execution environment and uses the Java Native Interface (JNI) to hand off control to native code. The native method stack is the memory area dedicated to supporting this native execution. It works just like the Java stack but for C++ code running underneath. A classic example is thread.sleep or file I/O operations which internally use native OS calls. If this stack overflows, JVM throws a stack overflow error just like the Java stack. The execution engine is the heart of JVM. This is where bytecode actually gets executed. As shown in the diagram, it has three components working together. The interpreter reads bytecode instructions one by one and executes them immediately. It's simple and starts fast, but slow because it reinterprets the same instructions every time they're called. The JIT, just-in-time, compiler solves this. It monitors which methods are called frequently, hotspots, and compiles them into native machine code. Next time those methods are called, the native code runs directly at full CPU speed, no interpretation needed. The garbage collector is also part of the execution engine. It runs in the background, continuously scanning the heap for objects that no longer have any references, and automatically frees that memory. Together these three make Java both safe, GC handles memory, and fast, JIT handles performance. The JIT compiler is what makes Java fast despite being a managed language. When your program runs, the JVM starts with the interpreter, reading bytecode line by line. Simultaneously, the JIT profiler monitors which methods are being called repeatedly. Once a method crosses a certain call threshold, JIT marks it as a hotspot and compiles the entire method into native machine code, storing it in the code cache. From that point on, every call to that method bypasses the interpreter completely and runs the cached native code directly on the CPU, just as fast as a compiled C program. JIT also performs powerful optimizations during compilation, like inlining, replacing method calls with the actual code, loop unrolling, and dead code elimination. This combination of interpretation for startup speed and JIT compilation for runtime speed is called adaptive optimization, and it's why Java performs exceptionally well in long-running server applications. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this explanation helped you clearly understand the JVM architecture and its core components in a structured and easy way. Continue learning, keep practicing, and stay consistent with your preparation. More detailed concepts are coming next.